Shalom from Jerusalem. Sir, what do you think about Iran and the so-called threat that they're posing, not just to Israel, but to the entire Middle East?
Iran has increasingly become a very isolated country. It feels in itself, I think, whether it's justified or not, it feels under threat. It particularly feels under threat because its closest ally, Syria, is now very much a threat. So I think one has to look at the Iranians, and I'm not particularly sympathetic to the Iranian regime at all, but that one has to understand, getting into their mindset, that they feel that the world is ganging up against them. That said, that doesn't mean that they should be allowed to have nuclear weapons, and indeed, it isn't just Israel that is troubled by the threat of Iranian nuclear weapons. People in the West frequently don't understand that the divisions within the Islamic community cause many of the Sunni nations, notably Saudi Arabia, but many others as well, to be just as fearful, if not more so. Because Israel has a defense capability that Saudi Arabia does not have. And therefore, when we start to look at the problems that are created by an Iranian weapon system, it is by no means limited to Israel. And inevitably, whatever Israel does to respond to this, we may have other questions later, whatever Israel does to respond to this particular matter, one likely one likely occurrence of Iran achieving nuclear weapons is that a lot of other countries, not limited to Saudi Arabia, but including Saudi Arabia, are going to want to have nuclear weapons.
They're
going to be all over 10, 15 years from now. I think we are going to see much more something that looks like the India-Pakistan, in the sense that everybody in the region is using nuclear weapons. So these are among the concerns.
Wonderful. Now, what do you think? Have sanctions really affected the Iranian regime at all in 5 years?
It's not apparent up to now. It's not to say it couldn't happen. And indeed, to a certain extent, there's gamesmanship going on between the West in general and Iran. The idea, I'm not sure whether Israel will launch an attack. It will have a limited impact. It won't destroy the program. It will delay the program. The real impact of an Israeli attack, should it occur, and I'm not saying it will occur, but the real impact of a Israeli attack on Iran is to elicit some kind of counter-reaction where Iran lashes back, not just at Israel, but perhaps at other participants in the area. And if that happens, so it's the trigger might well be an Israeli attack should it occur. But in fact, the Iranian response to that attack, should they try to block the Straits of Hormuz, should they in fact launch an attack on Saudi Arabia, which has been threatened, should they, frankly, even if they just attack Israel, what will that do to the United States and the West? And that's really the impact, because I don't think Israel has the military capability or to knock out, to destroy the Iranian program such as it is.
Now, has the Obama administration, in almost 4 years of presidency, has done enough to deter the Iranian regime?
Oh, clearly not.
Obtaining?
I wouldn't limit it to the Iranian, to the Obama administration. I mean, the Iranian nuclear program goes back many years. Frankly, it goes back decades. So to suggest this has all happened in the last 3 years that Obama's been president is misleading. This is an ongoing problem, and indeed, previous administrations, going back to Bush, going back to Clinton, going back to the earlier Bush, going back to Reagan. The Iranian nuclear program, the roots of it really go back to the Shah. This is even before the Islamic Revolution there. So we're talking about decades. Has enough been done? Obviously not. But we can see that in other places, in North Korea, we can see in Pakistan, that indeed America, for all its intentions and wanting to, U.S. did not want North Korea to have nuclear weapons. It did not want to have Pakistan or India, for that matter, to have nuclear weapons. So indeed, have they done enough? Absolutely not. They haven't done enough here. They haven't done enough in other places. And it's why Iran probably has some real skepticism about what the U.S. will do.
But the Russians really have an interest in the Middle East.
Sure.
As we know, the Russians have basically developed that technology for the Iranians in Iran.
Well, it's not quite that simple. The Russians have supplied equipment that has assisted Iran. Russia did not just put the nuclear program into Iran. Russia has provided, because they get money. They get money for it. Frankly, North Korea may, although I don't know so much about what North Korea has contributed. The Pakistanis probably have contributed in ways. But there are a number of components. Developing nuclear technology is not simple. I think it's misleading to suggest that Russia has given Iran the nuclear weapons at all, to the end. We're not even sure what they've got. They're moving in that direction without question. Even if they have nuclear weapons, a delivery system is yet another component that is necessary. Anyway, those are.
So, as a Jew, do you want peace?
Oh, everybody wants peace. Frankly, I suspect Iran wants peace in their own sense. Just somebody just spilled over here. But the question isn't whether you want peace or not. It's a matter of what sacrifices you're going to make in order to achieve it. I don't think it's a question of one side wanting peace and the other side not. These simplicities really aren't appropriate in discussing these kinds of questions. But yeah, sure, of course, Israel would like peace, but it would like peace in a way that it isn't under constant threat in the future. But I suspect an Iranian, somebody who in fact was a supporter of the regime, and a lot of Iranians, probably most Iranians aren't. They want peace too. It's a question of how do we get peace.
This is Real LCP, Independent News, Jerusalem, Israel. Shalom.